Deepak Chopra. There are no accidents. There is only some purpose we haven't yet understood. And from the science of mind, every time one conceives an idea, it is God expressing himself. Brothers and soap manufacturers, Cleo and Noah McVicker, invented a product to clean wallpaper in the 1930s. 20 years later, Cleo's son Joe heard from another family member, Katie Zufall, that the children in her nursery school loved playing with the product. And so they revamped it and sold it as Play-Doh. Spencer Silver worked for 3M and was developing a super sticky adhesive, but accidentally invented a low-tack adhesive that could be reapplied and reused. This was God's second son, by the way, because I know that I would not be able to survive without Post-it notes. Silver gave a sample to his secretary. Soon all the secretaries in 3M wanted samples, and thus Post-it notes became a 3M brand. Richard James, a naval mechanical engineer, was working on springs to help stabilize sensitive instruments on ships. He accidentally knocked over a spring and watched it walk down a series of heights. What was this? Lincoln. When Percy Spencer stood in front of a radio wave-emitting magnetic magnetron in 1945, he felt the chocolate bar in his pocket melting. What was this? He got some popcorn kernels and tried it again, and they popped. This led to Spencer and his colleagues inventing the microwave. Sometimes our intentions can lead us down paths we never imagined. These side roads can often be the best part of our lives when we allow Spirit to use us in a greater way. There are no accidents in the universe. All is unfolding perfectly. And I think as we prepare to go within, I'd love for you to hold this in your mind, this affirmation. I surrender to the perfection of the unfolding universe. And now take a breath. Draw your attention inward by focusing on the beating of your heart. We know that we are one with universal mind. And when we allow our mind to sync with unconditional love, we truly do what the Master advised us, which is thinketh in the heart. And we know that mind without heart may be cruel, and heart without mind may be foolish, and so we would be wise ones and allow our thoughts to be full of love. And we allow ourselves to be in the posture of surrender, knowing that whatever the universe has in store for us, it is unbelievably fantastic and wonderful, beyond sometimes what we can even dream about. And so we go into the moment of communion with self, knowing that we allow ourselves to fall back into the arms of God. And knowing that in order to manifest our perfect path, we want to allow some purification of all those things that no longer serve us to be released. So allow yourself to see in the center of this space a large fireball radiating like a sun. Breathe. And into the center of this fireball, place anything on the physical plane that is needed to be transformed. that which is no longer useful to you and your service on planet Earth. And as it goes into the center of the fireball, it is transformed, and the energy of life is released like the rays of the sun. Breathe. Now we see this fireball turn into a blazing yellow sun. Place into the center of the sun any emotions, desires, energies, ways of running energy that are no longer useful in present time to your service. And see these energies transformed into radiant spokes of pure energy in all the colors of the rainbow. Breathe. Now the sun turns into a deep indigo blue color. Place into the center of the indigo sun any separative thought forms, ideas, concepts that are interfering with your present time soul expression. And as they enter the sun, see these thought forms transformed into radiant spokes of pure energy being released into the room in all the colors of the rainbow. Breathe. Now we see the soul itself appear in the center of the room. All of the life and the light that's been released, we offer to the soul's plan and purpose. And the energy rises up to the group soul of humanity and infuses the great plan. And now from the group soul, we see an energy of golden light coming down through the group, descending into each one of our crown centers, and all the way through all of our vehicles, cleansing, purifying, harmonizing, and preparing us for the next cycle of our soul. Take a breath. Allow ourselves to be in the present moment once more. Feeling your body within its physical space. Your emotions calm and peaceful. Your thoughts in neutral, opening and ready to receive. And so it is. Now allow yourself to put your hands together, palm to palm, in front of your heart, as we lift them to our mind's eye and release them again to the universe with open palm. And let us all say together the Hindu word for peace. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May peace prevail on earth. And so it is.
We actually had a very interesting class this morning. For you that are new, we have a metaphysical Bible class next door at 9:45, and wow, today Spirit just took over and channeled. But one of the things I took from this morning that came through was there's about to be a new wave. A new wave. And I began to tell them all about the different waves in history in the last 100 and some years. Even New Thought itself was a wave that came through over 150 years ago by just people gathering together in houses and praying. And we are about to embark on a new wave. I don't know what that looks like or what it means, but we must be available for that spiritual wave to take over that's going to draw in a whole new order of beings, of human beings. I have spent a lot of time this weekend preparing and doing what we call a Soma Share in Soma Energetics, in which we do every year. This is about our 6th year of Soma Share, in which all of our practitioners get together online and share all weekend. So it's been quite a weekend for me. So I just kind of grabbed something here that I thought was light. We'll see. What's light for me isn't light for everybody sometimes. But it is on serendipity. And Reverend Rebecca did a wonderful job of preparing us for this talk today, and I appreciate that. Serendipity is not an old word, actually. It's one of the few words that we can use in the English language that did not come from Latin or Greek or Hebrew or some of the ancient Sanskrit type languages, but actually was created by an English nobleman in the 1700s from a Persian fairy tale. The meaning of the word, good luck in finding valuable things, unintentionally refers to characters who always make discoveries through what we call chance, and I put that in quotes. We think life is about a lot of chances, even good luck. We say, oh, I had good luck today. There really is no good luck. There really is no chances. There's always opportunities that come to us. So sometimes serendipity is just intention unmasked. I'm going to repeat that. Sometimes serendipity is just intentions unmasked. We all use what we call prayer. I'm not sure what people believe and how they see prayer. Prayer to this community of people is not begging or manipulating or asking God to do things for us, but it is a way of communicating with the divine, with the sacred. It is a way of connecting with wisdom of the higher mind, of the higher self, the sacred. And we need to realize that through prayer, we give direction to spirit, to the energy that makes us up in the way that we are to go. So at the deep level of our understanding, beyond the level of appearance, illusion, we find always divine direction in all things. It doesn't always appear to be that way, but it can end up that way if we choose to see it as everything being connected in the sacred and in the divine. I'm going to start out with a little story out of the Old Testament that I thought was interesting. It's in 1 Samuel 9:1, and it's a story. Like so many things in the Bible, it's a story. It's an allegory. And all these stories are not about what happened thousands of years ago, but it's what can happen with us and what is happening with us. We are all these stories. We are all these characters there in the Bible. They speak of the different stages of our unfoldment, our enlightenment. All the circumstances they go through are circumstances that we can relate to in our own lives. But this is a story in 1 Samuel 9:1 about Saul, who is the son of Kish. Now, Saul was a tall, handsome gentleman, and whose mules were lost in the story. So Kish told Saul, his son, to take the servants with him, arise and go and seek the mules. So they passed through Mount Ephraim. They passed through the land of Shalasha. Then they did not find them in either of those places. So then they passed through the land of Shalom, and they were not there either. So my point here is that many times we look for answers in our life, the manifestation of our desires in life, and we don't get them. And we think because we don't get them, then something is wrong. Something's wrong with us, or where's God in this, or it's not going to happen to me, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough to receive it. And we can get a little discouraging sometimes because things don't happen just in the way that we would like for them to happen and when we would like for them to happen. So it says that even though they didn't find what they were looking for, that when they came into the land of Zoph, what an interesting word, Z-U-P-S, Zoph, which means in the Hebrew flowing. So when they gave up the search and entered into the flow of life, See, sometimes it's not your mental desires, it's not your mental wants that guide you to what really you need in your life to enrich it, but it's following the flow of life as it flows and unfolds itself in the way that it chooses to do. So we have to release control. We have to detach, is an old Buddhist way of looking at things. Detach, detach, detach from the outcome of how it might look like to you, when it might happen, who it might happen with, and realize that you don't know how things are going to show up in a certain form. So when they entered into the land of flowing, Saul said to the servants, let us return. Now that's interesting here. There's a place in the Bible that says, let us return to our first love. I like that scripture. Return to our first love. How many of you can just for a moment remember when you first found New Thought? Or you found spirituality outside of religious doctrine and dogma? It was exciting, wasn't it? To find out other people thought like you did? That you weren't the only weirdo because your family thought you were the only white sheep or black sheep of the family, whichever, and thought that you're really crazy. You're not following the tribal religion. You're thinking things that we don't believe in the family, and so on and so forth. And I think that's an important thing for us to realize, that things just don't happen the way that we assume for it to happen. So we have to return to that place. Let's not lose it. Even in this community, I often remember, and I've said this before, that I was one of the first speakers in this building when it opened back in the 90s. I think 93, 94, I don't know, at that time. I was here and spoke, and I remember doing the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic here, and how excited the new community was about this space. It was new and beautiful building, and everybody was excited about a new community that was happening here. Now, I don't know if there's anybody here, I think maybe Bonnie and Johnny were part of that early part, and I don't know if you were. But if you were, you can remember the excitement. And I'm sure others of you have been a part of new, say, communities or new churches or groups that started, and the enthusiasm and the freshness. You know, it's before all the stuff starts. Before all the human traits start, you know, the judgments and the competition and the insecurities and all the things that are injected into the purity of the early birth of new and wonderful things that basically happen. So this morning, I feel Spirit is saying through this message today is return to that first love. The first time that you found out again you weren't alone, that there was a community to support you and to be there and to help you and empower you along your journey. So it says, come, let us return. So, entering into the flow and returning to the first love that we all have experienced, things begin to happen in a different way. So the servant said to Saul, there is a city, and in the city is a man of God, an honorable man, and all that he says shall come to pass. There's somebody who is a prophet, who has a vision that can tell you what is truly your path and what it is that you are desiring and looking for. So they came into the city, and it said first they went up the hill to the city. Now we know when it speaks of hills and mountains, we're talking about symbols of higher states of consciousness. You know, and only one time in the Bible does it say that Jesus went to the high mountain. They went to mountains. There's mountains mentioned. There's hills. But one time he went to the high mountain. That's one of the highest states of all consciousness, in which he had this great experience of transfiguration. Transfiguration was an outraying of the inner presence of the Christ outside of matter, the physical Jesus. In that moment, Jesus, who was the Christ, became Christ Jesus. So I invite you to the highest mountain of all, the mountain of transfiguration, when the inner spirit becomes a part of the outer life. Why not? Why do we have to go in and visit it? I say a lot of times people meditate and go in and visit a little heaven and come back and live a lot in hell. I suggest you live more in heaven and go visit hell once in a while and get a few people out while you're there, but return home to the heaven, to the place of peace and the place of joy. So they went up the hill to the city and inquired, and it just happened that the man of God who wasn't there happened to be there at the same time. You know, there's nothing like being in the right place at the right time. That's called alignment.
Yeah.
Alignment between the divine and the human, the inner, the outer. And what an important experience it is to have that moment of alignment. Alignment means the opening of portals, of vibrational pathways, of doorways between dimensions where things do already exist that are looking to come into our lives. You know, the ego wants us to believe that we're in lack all the time, that we're here and we don't have this and we need to get it and find it. So we spend our time in linear time looking for something that we don't realize that we had all along in the vertical. And this is a great place that we're in, a great crossroads that we are in today in this whole quantum world that we're entering into. Quantum physics is telling us that anything that is ever was or ever will be is now.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, in Ecclesiastes, the first chapter and the 6th verse of the Bible, even though it was written hundreds and hundreds of years ago, what a quantum statement that says anything that was is now, anything that could be is now and was. So there is no time and space in the vertical spiritual realms of consciousness itself. So they went to Samuel, who the prophet, to get word. Now, what they're looking for is mules. That's the whole thing they started out with, is that their father said, go find my mules, the beasts, and find them and bring them back to me. And everywhere they looked, they didn't find the mules. So when they get to the true visionary part of ourselves, that's what Samuel represents, the higher states of higher consciousness and wisdom that is able to see beyond the boundaries and the limitations of the world of appearance and to see beyond into the world of truth and the essence of life itself. Then we begin to see things from a different point of view. This is why we need to work on with opening our eye of enlightenment. I do it with tuning forks, but you can do it with all kinds of things. You can do it with intention. You can do it with prayer. You can do it with however you choose to do it. But work every day to make sure your third eye, we call it, but it's called the eye of enlightenment. The Bible speaks of it, actually. These are not New Age things. These are pretty old things. That says that when the eye is single, the whole body is full of light. I like that. When your eye is single, what does that mean? That means when you realize everything is connected and is a purpose and an opportunity, then your whole life will be full of light, enlightenment, of understanding all of the events and circumstances of your life. So the bottom line here is that the prophet says, instead of the mules are over here and there, go there, he makes an odd statement. For you shall reign over my people Israel. So the bottom line is, while Saul was seeking his father's lost herd, he was actually rewarded a kingdom. Had no idea that the beginning of this journey to find some mules that his father had lost, that he was going to be given the entire kingdom of Israel. Let's look a little bit at the history of serendipity. Horace Walpole, there is a Walpole, New Hampshire. I did not know that there's a city named for Horace Walpole. 1754, in 1754, he was the Earl of Oxford, best known for his passion to write letters. In fact, if you would go to any size library today and can look up all of these 848 letters that he wrote, they're huge. You would have to have a grocery cart to get all of them. There's so many of them. And he would write these letters. He wrote 848 letters to a man named Horace Mann in Florence, Italy, in which he received 845 replies. This alone makes 1,696 letters. Walpole lived to be 80 years old. One of the letters that he wrote was written on a foggy winter's day in January 28, 1754. when Walpole dipped his pen deeper into his quill, he never before, he wrote an old Persian fairy tale which has been a profound impression on lives since. He wrote about 3 princes of Serendip, which was called Ceylon at the time, ancient Ceylon. The 3 was often traveling through the world, rarely finding treasures they were looking for, but continuously ran into other treasures equally great or greater, which they were not searching for. In other words, in looking for one thing, most of the time they found something else. Finally, it dawned on them that this was one of life's sly and wonderful tricks, that the universe did have tricks up its sleeves, and it does for all of us. When they realized this, they got a whole new slant on life, and every day ended up in a new and thrilling experience. After a while, it seemed as if some unseen power knew more than what they did and what was best for them. We have to surrender to that today. We call it a higher wisdom, a higher guidance. Call it angels, call it ascended masters, call it what you want to, but it's a higher divine wisdom that always knows what is best for our growth and our development and draws us more toward enlightenment. You have to watch the brain. The brain will think it wants something. It'll think it needs something. And those things not in any way are going to further you. And sometimes those things can cause you more challenge in your life than you really want. So be careful about what you say you want, because you're very powerful, right? You're the center of power. The power, call it the spark of the divine, God within, Christ within, whatever you want, but it's very powerful. And now in this time of changing of electromagnetic fields, of the Schumann resonance, of the heartbeat of Mother Earth, we are in what Greg Braden calls less buffer time. And what that means is between thought and manifestation is less than it's ever been. That you're going to start manifesting very quickly whatever you want to manifest. So you may think you want to manifest, let's say, a lot of prosperity. I mean, who doesn't right off the surface of your mind think, okay, of course I want to win the lottery. I want to have a lot of money. I want to have a lot of prosperity. And then look around you at people who do have it. How it destroys their life, the shape that are in. I once in a while just glance on all these movie stars and these people that have all the money that you could imagine and their lives that this money has brought them into. So the point is, we only want what is in alignment with divine purpose. We want what is in alignment with our contracts and agreements that we have made. We don't want what we think we want. We want what we desire. There's a difference. It says delight yourself in God and He'll give you the desires of your heart. Right. Not all your wants. The Lord's my shepherd, I shall not want. Mm-hmm. Right? But the desires. Desires are based upon the spiritual purpose in which we've incarnated, on the soul's purpose in which we have incarnated. So the bottom line of this whole simple lesson today is that even though you may be looking for one thing, you get another thing. I have to be honest with you that I've seen this many times in my life. I came back to Charlotte with a certain idea of what I thought it was going to be. I had a vision based upon how things looked and were that time. And it's not worked out to be quite that way. Now, I am going, what does the universe have up its sleeve? What is going to happen that could be new and exciting that I did not expect? Just because it didn't happen the way I expected it to happen. And the way that does not mean that the universe doesn't have something even greater prepared for all of us. Right? So today let us be encouraged in this wonderful spiritual idea of serendipitous living. Because I think it's important for us to not let life as it appears to be to drag us into hopelessness and depression and discouragement. But let us be awakened with hope and vision and great understanding. Thank you very much.